For more on this now, let's bring in John Kirby, the Pentagon's press secretary. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a really big day as we mark the month of this war. There was a report this morning I wanted to ask you about that the Pentagon had been trying to reach out to Russia's military, and those calls had not been either picked up or they're not communicating with the Pentagon. What's the purpose of that outreach, and why do you think the snub?
NATO headquarters. She's inside.
We think that communication with the Russians is important, particularly now. In fact, now more than ever, to be able to communicate with our Russian counterparts and make sure that we can convey our continued concerns about the manner in which they're prosecuting this unprovoked war. We have tried on numerous occasions to connect Secretary Austin with his counterpart. Chairman Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, has also tried to connect with his counterpart. We've made multiple attempts here, but they have not answered up. They've declined to take these calls. Now, I will say that it's not like we don't have any communication with the Russians. We could do that through our embassy. We have a defense attaché in Moscow. We have a deconfliction line, of course, that we're using. It's really not so much for normal comms, but in order to be able to deconflict, particularly in that airspace as you get closer to NATO's eastern flank. So there are vehicles. We still have military-to-military communications with the Russians, but at the senior levels, where we think it's really important, particularly right now, it's not happening, and it's not happening because the Russians don't seem to be interested.
You know, sir, I'm very fascinated in what's going on the ground right now. I mean, we have been watching this for a month, and for a month, the Russian forces have been on defensive, and now you see them pushing back Russian forces from Kyiv. You see them attacking Russian Navy vessels. Does this give you an indication that the Ukrainians are becoming bolder, becoming more confident as the days roll on?
The Ukrainians are definitely becoming more effective on the battlefield. They are starting in places, in some of the places, Trace, that you just talked about, where they're moving just from defensive postures to offensive postures. They have pushed the Russians, kept them out of Kyiv. We now have indications, Trace, that they've actually pushed Russian forces further to the east. So the Russian forces had advanced somewhere between 20 to 30 kilometers to the east of Kyiv. The Ukrainians, just in the last 24 hours or so, pushed them back to about 40 to 50 kilometers away. And in the north of Kyiv, what we're seeing is the Russians take a real defensive posture. They're no longer trying to advance. They're simply going back now into the defense. So in places up north and places in the south, you talked about the activity in the Black Sea, but also around a town called Mykolaiv, which is just to the northeast of Odessa. Again, the Ukrainians have defended so well that they're actually pushing the Russians further away from that town.
I have two questions about a two-part question about getting weapons to the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians have said that they need more and that it's slow. I know that you'll say that we're trying our best and they're getting there. But a question on the weapons, but also, you know, there are reports that because the weapons have to get into Ukraine somehow, there's a report that the Russians are increasingly saying that any sort of weapons convoy is fair game. And there was even a suggestion that the possibility that as they are trying to bomb those, as they come through Poland, that Russia might purposely, maybe even accidentally, hit inside Poland to try to destroy those weapons convoys. What would be the reaction if that were the case?
So let's just talk a little bit about these shipments. First of all, they are arriving every day, Dana, including arrivals that are going to start very, very soon based on the president's most recent package of $800 million. So that stuff is arriving. In fact, another shipment just arrived yesterday. We're moving things through as fast as we can. It's going on the ground. It's going through numerous routes. Obviously, we don't want to talk about what those routes are. We have not seen the Russians attempt to strike any of these convoys, these shipments of material inside Russia. We're watching, inside Ukraine. We're watching this very, very carefully, as you might expect. But so far, we have not seen any attempt by the Russians to stall or to slow these convoys. They have their hands full right now, quite frankly, in places like Kyiv and Chernihiv and Kharkiv and down in the south near Crimea. I mean, they have their hands full dealing with a much more aggressive Ukrainian defense, as I said, now going on the offense. And one of the reasons they're able to do that, Dana, is because they continue to get this ready and rapid flow of security assistance.
I'm interested, Admiral, because the U.S. has now formally accused Vladimir Putin and the Russian forces of war crimes. And I'm wondering what that means in terms of consequences, because the administration so far has been vague on consequences. They say there will be consequences, and then they fail to lay them out.
Sure.
What does it mean that Vladimir Putin has now been declared by the U.S. as a war criminal?
Well, what we've said is that we have clear evidence that the Russian forces are committing war crimes, and we've been very honest about that. We are, as well as the international community, going to continue to garner the kind of evidence. There are numerous investigations going on, some at the international level. Our State Department is kind of leading a legal review for the United States. We're going to continue to garner and collect the evidence, make sure that it's available to these investigators. And the reason why we're not getting ahead of it is because these are investigations that are ongoing. Look, we all see, and you see it with yourself. You were showing footage not long ago of the devastation that the Russian forces are wreaking on these population centers, these cities, these towns, these Ukrainian people. It's plain for the world to see that the Russian forces are committing war crimes, but it's important that the evidence be documented, that information be collected and provided to investigators, and then we let that process play out. But clearly, there will be consequences.
Admiral, I have just one last question for you, because you paint the picture, and we're seeing it too, in the reporting that the Ukrainians are doing quite well with what they have against the Russians. With everybody in NATO today, is there going to be pressure on President Zelensky to accept a peace deal, which might make Putin stronger, or might result in them losing some of their territory? Is there pressure on him to accept a peace deal from the NATO countries?
We all want to see peace. We all want to see a negotiated settlement, Dana, and we know that the Russians and the Ukrainians are having those discussions right now. Nobody's turning the screws on Mr. Zelensky to negotiate this or that, or to take a certain position. This is his country. It's his sovereign country. He is the democratically elected president of that country, and everybody here at NATO respects that. Obviously, we all want to support him in his efforts to come up with a negotiated settlement, and clearly we want that settlement to end this war, but also to respect Ukrainian sovereignty.
Yeah.
Admiral, thank you. I hope you'll come back with us, as it's a very momentous couple of days there in Europe. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.